Jeez. A few hours of forgetting, then wake up and the whole mess hits like a ton of bricks. Oh, I wish I could sleep for a year. Ah, what good would that do? Oh, Carol. I know it's worse for you. Jeez, every time I see you, you're crying. That's not gonna get us anywhere. We can't cry ourselves out of this mess. Carol, I was so crazy about you. We had such a ball together.
Bite my foot.
Laughing and loving. It was sweet. Like some kind of dumb romantic song, I guess. But now it's gotten so I almost hate you. Oh, I don't really mean that. I just feel like a trapped animal. I want out. I want out. I don't know what's wrong with me. That day when you found out your test was positive, all I wanted to do was split. Get on the first plane and get lost. I keep remembering all those rotten things I said. Like, how do I know it's mine? So if you did it with me, there could have been others. How could I even think, let alone say something like that to you?
I don't know what to do. What do you want to do?
I don't know.
Everything's wrecked now between us. I don't even want to go near you. Why do I want to make it out to be all your fault?
And when you're through with the dog, I want you to take out the trash and straighten up your room. And you're not going out tonight. I want you to stay home. I want you to do your homework. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Dad and my stepmother treat me like I'm an idiot. Like, didn't I know where babies came from? And who do I think I am, sleeping around and getting girls pregnant? Didn't I know that 2 and 2 makes 4? That if you drink too much, you get drunk? If you drive like crazy, you have a smash-up? If you have sex without using protection, the gal gets pregnant? That's right, Dad. I'm an idiot. Who wants to be a father at 17? I've got other plans for my life. Why did everything have to get spoiled? Just when things were going along real good. Just got my car paid for. Making enough to have a good time. Paid for birthday and Christmas presents and all. But a baby. Oh, wow. I mean, who counted on supporting a baby? Doctor bills, baby food, clothes, all that stuff. Man, I can't begin to hack that on a part-time job. And her parents. Huh. They think I'm the pits. Got the sweet little girl pregnant. Not that they say anything. They're too anxious to keep me sticking by her.
Carol's sick.
She's been feeling pretty lousy all day.
She's upstairs.
My friends say I'm crazy if I let them pressure me into marrying her. It'd be bye-bye college. Stuck in some stupid job. Jeez, what am I trained for now? Nothing. Home every night with a crying baby. How long could I stick that out? Even if we went to live with her folks, and I kept going to school, and we both worked some, and, jeez, the whole setup gives me the creeps. All of us living together in that dumb little house. Oh, Carol, it's not gonna work.
Oh, look at it. Isn't this adorable? Oh, Randy, look at that. Isn't that cute?
Girls, they gotta be nuts when it comes to babies.
So many cute clothes.
Here's Carol cooing over baby clothes and...
Look at this. Isn't that
Oh, it'll be so
Look at this.
cute.
crazy?
Like it was some kind of doll or something. Sure, I want to have a kid someday. That's normal and all, but not now. Oh, Carol, why'd you have to go and get pregnant?
Carol, Randy,
The abortion clinic looked clean
This
and
is our
decent and
procedure
safe
area.
to me.
we have 4 rooms.
I know deciding to have an abortion is a real serious thing, and Carol's got a lot of mixed feelings about it. I have too. You gotta feel guilty about killing your baby. Only it's not really a baby yet.
The doctor begins the abortion by inserting the speculum just as if he's going to do a pap smear. Have you had a pelvic examination before? Okay, so you know what a speculum is. It's inserted in the vagina. The doctor will put a tenaculum on the cervix to hold the uterus steady.
The counselor there says I mustn't pressure Carol.
Just enough.
It's a decision she's gotta make herself. But geez, she's only got a couple more weeks to make up her mind.
The appropriate length and
No matter what she decides, I can't just walk out on her. I've gotta do the decent thing. I only wish I knew what. My stepmother says the best thing would be for her to give the baby up to be adopted. She says neither one of us are ready to be parents. She's right, too. I don't want to be a father. Not now. But Carol, she cries every time I mention adoption. How can I give up my baby? She keeps saying. I'd always keep looking for it. It does give you goosebumps. Thinking about your own kid somewhere out there and you don't know who it's with or where. If she keeps the baby, I can help her, give her what I earn. Then someday when I have a decent job, or maybe she marries someone else, I can really do something for the kid. Most of my friends feel sorry. They really do. But geez, when you think of some of their crazy advice, you know, for Carol to bring on her period, falling downstairs, taking some concoction of mixed herbs, all that Dark Ages stuff. Some of the guys, though, hang tough, like Bud. He knocked a girl up last year and just laughed the whole thing off. Said she should have known what she was doing. Hey, I wonder if he really meant that. Or if he was just talking tough. Maybe under all that big man stuff, he felt as crummy about it as I do. My Carol. She was so sweet and kinda innocent. Maybe it was more my fault for pushing the whole thing. I mean, telling her everybody does it. And how else could she prove her love for me? I don't have any excuse. I guess neither of us do. We both knew where babies came from. I mean, Carol talked enough about us being careful and all. But sometimes it was just sort of fun to forget and let go. Oh, why didn't we have sense enough to know we were playing with fire? I mean, how dumb can you get? Carol, I do want to help. I want to do what's right. I don't know why people seem to think a guy doesn't give a hoot. It isn't true. A guy has feelings too. I never wanted to hurt anybody. And now I've made everybody miserable. Your family, mine, and making a poor baby that no one wants. Carol, if you only knew how low I feel. How absolutely rotten. I'd give anything in the world if... Carol? Carol? I promise. Whatever you decide, I'll do my best to help. Honest.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. So, what I didn't... I've seen this film before. Me, a teen father. I showed it a long time ago for a show I did about basically teens and kids having babies. And what I didn't realize was that this is made by the same people who made All My Tomorrows and The Day I Died, and they use the exact same format, and that you see these montages of the characters involved, and you have this narration, and the narration is like, yeah, we were having a good time, and then this horrible thing happened, and with The Day I Died, it's this kid's drinking, having fun at the beach, and then he gets into a car accident and dies. With All My Tomorrows, it is a girl who is going to a party. She takes some downers and some wine and ODs, and basically is in a coma for more than a year. And all of these have this narration of regret and sadness, and it's trying to paint the options and what happened and all this stuff, but it's all regret, like mournful regret. So, happy Wednesday. So, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show. Normally, they're not downers like that. I gotta bounce everybody back a little bit. Maybe you're at a new job and you're trying to figure out how to fit in. Here's your job fitting in.
Lloyd, Mr. Medwick wants to see you.
Me?
Lloyd, come in. Sit down. I'm afraid we've got some bad news for you, Lloyd. We're going to have to let you go. Now, let me explain why. Now, Lloyd, when you first came to us, there was no question in my mind that you were able to do the work assigned. At the same time, I was a little worried because you never seemed to be able to get it without question.
Lloyd Bornman doesn't have what it takes to fit in here. What does it take to fit in? Well, for most companies, there are certain basic principles you can follow or not follow. Let's consider Lloyd's case. We'll go back to the day Lloyd was hired. As part of the usual orientation, company policies were carefully explained to Lloyd by the personnel director.
The hours here are from 8:30 to 5, with 45 minutes for lunch. Oh, there are two 15-minute coffee breaks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Now, you're allowed one sick day per month. And if you can't come in, be sure to call Mr. Medwick.
Useful information intended to help Lloyd get along on the job. But he didn't think it was important.
Now about your pay. We pay twice a month, on the 1st and the 15th. Now, when you get your check, you'll notice that there are some deductions we take out for Social Security and withholding taxes. And also
Lloyd's mind was 100 miles away.
Hospitalization is paid for by the company. Here's the employee's handbook. It goes into detail on everything that I've mentioned.
The man tried to do everything possible to help Lloyd get started. But by the time Lloyd got home, he'd forgotten most of what he'd heard. And he didn't even bother to look at his employee handbook, much less read it. He left it with some other papers, which were eventually thrown out. Lloyd started his first day on the job not knowing the rules and policies of his company. He was in trouble almost from the moment he arrived. 10 minutes late.
I was wondering if you were going to show up.
Well, I missed my bus.
Well, let's get started. I want you to meet Jack Martz. Jack, this is Lloyd Borman.
Glad to know you, Lloyd.
I'd like you to introduce him to Ken and Larry and the others.
Be glad to.
And be sure he understands what everybody does, so he knows who to see for what.
I understand. Gene, pardon me just a minute, but I'd like you to meet Lloyd Bornman. Lloyd, this is Jean Martin, our secretary, and well, she takes care of our correspondence. This is Ken Kiefer. Now, you can find your plans for, well, every product that we've ever made. Larry Cox. Now, if you need paper, ink, or a new pen, or maybe even a T-square, well, Larry's the man to see. Paul Sutz, our product manager. Now, most of our work comes from Paul. His designers get the ideas, and we draw them.
Again, Lloyd didn't really listen. He didn't listen to the names of the other workers or to what they did. It didn't occur to him that he'd be depending on them later to get his job done.
Now, I want you to go through each one of these drawings.
Later, Mr. Medwick gave Lloyd his first assignment. He explained carefully how he wanted the drawings done.
Be sure to make up a separate specification for each item. Don't put it on the individual drawing because there isn't room. You'll just be wasting your time. Now, I want simple orthographic views, front, top, and side. And if you run across a part that you think needs an oblique projection, will you check with me before you
Was
go?
Lloyd understanding directions? It was hard to tell. So Mr. Medwick asked him,
Do you understand? You're sure? Well, good. You can get started.
But when Lloyd got to work, he began to realize how much he needed the information he'd received and forgotten.
Say, where can I get a beam compass? What's that guy's name in production? Who can give me the dimensions in this part? Where's the title supposed to go? Where do I find the specs on this?
The other workers didn't mind his questions at first. But after he'd asked the same question for the third or fourth time, once Lloyd had the answers, he was slow in getting started. he kept finding other things to do. Personal phone calls, trips to the water cooler. He took more time than he was allowed for coffee breaks and for lunch. Finally, he got to work and finished a drawing.
But now this is pretty bad. Look at the smears you've got in here. And when you mark a center line, I expect it to be center. Look, you're off center on both of these down here. Now look at this lettering here. In the first place, you've written out every word. They should be...
Mr. Medwick tried to point out what was wrong in a helpful way.
Now, in addition to all these other things, Lloyd, you've got a wholly unnecessary view here.
It's not my fault. Jack told me to do it that way.
As the days went on, instead of learning from his mistakes, Lloyd made new ones. Rather than wait to punch out, he decided to skip it. If he had bothered to read his employee's handbook, he would have learned that a time card is needed as a legal record of a worker's hours.
Lloyd, I think you understand why it is that we're letting you go. I mean, it isn't anything that has been so bad that it's any...
Increasingly, Lloyd spent his time blaming other employees and the company for his mistakes, rather than learning from them.
That's about it. Goodbye, Lloyd. Better luck on your next job. Well, hello, Stan.
In getting a replacement for Lloyd, Mr. Medwick hired Stanley Edwards, a man who seemed almost an opposite of Lloyd.
Just tell me a little bit about your background.
I got all A's in my drafting classes. I think I could do a good job.
Stan was alert, bright, and eager. He seemed to be an excellent prospect. When Stan talked to the personnel director, he paid close attention and asked questions. Perhaps too many questions.
Instead of twice a month, why don't you pay every other week? Then we get our checks always on the same day. It'd be easier to budget.
No, that's true. But our accounting department closes their books at the end of each month. If the pay period closes at the same time, it saves them lots of time and work. Now, if the pay period overlaps, then our accountants...
Responding to Stan's questions took a great deal of the director's time, but he didn't mind. He was pleased to find someone who seemed interested in the company. Stan took the employee's handbook home and began to read. A good start, until he came across some rules that didn't make sense to him. He didn't waste time trying to understand them. His mind leaped ahead to ways of changing the rules and to ways of getting around the rules to suit himself. Stan was eager, all right, eager to please himself, but not to fit in. Arriving early on the job the first day, Stan still looked promising to Mr. Medwick. His fellow employees were the first to suspect that something might be wrong.
This is Stan Edwards.
Ken Kiefer?
That's right, Kiefer.
Glad to meet you, Ken. Have you been at this job long?
About 8 years, Stan.
Have you ever thought of using micro? You know, I saw a system that, at Acme Engineering, that took up about 1/10 of the space, and yet it was...
Instead of simply learning each man's name and what his job was, Stan began giving advice. Maybe later, after he had proved himself, some of his suggestions might have been welcome. But now, he was just a new employee who should have been trying to fit in. Mr. Medwick began to realize that Stan might not be right for the job when he started explaining to him how he wanted the work done. Stan interrupted several times with suggestions for improved ways of doing it before his boss had a chance to finish. Mr. Medwick had to interrupt Stan to explain why he wanted it done a certain way. He didn't want to discourage him from making improvements, but there were reasons for doing it the way it was done, and Mr. Medwick went over them in detail. Finally, after the long explanation, Stan seemed to understand. Without any further delays, he got busy and started to draw. But Stan's first drawing showed he'd never really listened. He'd put in views not called for, and he'd changed the format of the plate. When Mr. Medwick tried to explain again why he didn't want it done that way, Stan argued with him, insisting that his way was better. Again, Mr. Medwick went through a long explanation, which took time and cost the company money. In the days that followed, Stan continued trying to change the way things were done. He didn't seem to care if anyone wanted his advice or not.
You notice that the CBSR series is more efficient, less heat buildup, and also puts out more tracings per hour. But
Stan, Mr. Medwick would like to see you in his office.
Mr. Medwick hired Stan to make drawings, not to reorganize his department. But Stan couldn't seem to follow the routines of the company. He wasn't able to fit in. So Stan was also let go. This time, imagine that you're being hired. By now, you've probably got an idea of things a new employee can do to fit in. Would you do better than Lloyd or Stan? Would you make an effort to learn and remember the rules and regulations of your company? Or would you be a Lloyd? Or a Stan? Would you read through an employee's handbook and try to understand company policies? Or would you use your time trying to think of ways to change things? Or would you disregard it altogether? When introduced to your fellow employees, would you forget their names or not even hear them as Lloyd did? Would you take up more of their time than necessary, as Stan did? How would you respond? In hearing about how your job is to be done, would you be thinking about how you would do it? Or not really listening? Do you think you would do better? After receiving your instructions, would you delay getting at your work? Or give advice to others on how to do their work? If you dug right in, would you do it your own way or the way your company wants it done? Having done your best, what would you do if your boss pointed out mistakes? Give him an argument, an alibi? Or would you listen carefully to be sure you understood what you did wrong so you wouldn't make the same mistakes again? How would you do? Would you be like Lloyd and do too little? Would you be like Stan and try to do too much? How would you fit in?
As many people have said, it's clear that the HR department hiring process is flawed. You have two of these guys who, no, not right for the position at all. We just want a flunky. Yeah. I certainly think back to times when my first day on the job, I certainly was not the best, not stellar. Probably guilty of both Stan and Lloyd behavior, which is why I'm self-employed now. I don't think I'm so broken now. I don't think I could actually work for another company because I have been working on my own for such a long time. So that's a cautionary tale, maybe. I don't know. Anyhow, wow, where can I go from here? I have a lot of different directions that we can go in here. Let's talk about facing reality. this film is interesting. It's a little splicey at the beginning, but it really is kind of an interesting film about coping mechanisms, how we deal with disappointments, and how we deal with different things. And it's interesting. This kind of comes up. I was watching on HBO Max the Heaven's Gate documentary, which we actually digitized some footage for, and we have some stock footage in, it turns out. It's fascinating look at that cult. That was kind of not... It was kind of the lamest cult or slackest cult you could imagine, in that it recruited people, but it really didn't... It kind of let people brainwash themselves. We're only in the first episode, but it's really fascinating to me to kind of see how people... They're like, these people that I'm seeing presenting to me, I'm all for them, and I'm just going to dump everything and go all out for this without any real clear direction. It's really kind of interesting. All right, anyways, so here's Facing Reality.
Reality seems too difficult for us to face. We retreat behind defensive mechanisms. There was the girl who always explained that she really didn't want something after she found out she couldn't get it. She was two-faced. Her mechanism was realization. Remember the boy who failed to make the team? It was because the coach didn't like him, so he said. For him, the fault was always someplace else. A dull tool, the wrong time, a stupid teacher. His defense mechanism is a special type of rationalization that we call projection. Remember the girl who could only disagree? She could only shake her head. Her defense mechanism was negativism. All of us are guilty of defensive mechanisms to some degree at some time. Knowing their dangers, we have a better chance to guard against them. When these poor defenses slip, and they always do, and we're face to face with hard reality again, we have other means of getting away. Remember the boy who couldn't dance, but who always brought a pint to the party? He was trying to escape from a sense of his own inadequacy. The next morning, he'd have a hangover, and he still couldn't dance. She was a daydreamer. She could dream that she was the most beautiful woman in the world. Time and time again, she could return to it, getting more beautiful with each dream. But every time she woke up, she was face to face with her own face. He identified himself with a welterweight champion. Every fight the champ won, he won. Every punch the champ took, he took. And he could take it. His escape mechanism was identification with somebody else. She thought that if you pretended a thing wasn't there, it might go away. If you pretended something hadn't happened, maybe it hadn't. If you hid the truth away, maybe it would turn out to be a lie. Her escape mechanism was suppression. He saw illness as a way out. A back way, true, but a way. When it was time to bring in the wood, his legs pained him. When the snow fell, something went wrong with his arm. And he loved the attention he got. His escape mechanism was malingering. The Army calls it gold bricking. Too many of us refuse to face reality. Too many of us try to escape our duties and identities, our faces and our families. But all these things remain. All the realities remain whenever we leave our dreams and return to the real world. Michael Squires is such a person, pinwheeling through life, defenses held high, darting away from reality through the escape hatches of his emotional being.
Essentially, every normal person wants to stand well in his own eyes and in the eyes of others. When he does not, then he'll seek ways to achieve that standing. Protective mechanisms offer the wrong route. Finding out what the trouble is, what sends us into defense and escape mechanisms, is the first step on the road back to reality and the satisfactions and rewards that can be found only in the real world. I remember promising you a few minutes at the end of this period to discuss your class dance. Well, I guess the time has come now, and I'll see you all tomorrow. So long.
Okay, little attention, please. Okay, now we got just about everything set. The dance will be the first week in October, Friday night. We've got Jimmy Barron and his boys for the music. But we're gonna have to pay him extra if it goes past midnight. Okay? All right, now look, let's get to the committees. As I'm chairman of the entertainment program, I'll assign you to various committees. But if you're not satisfied, you can overrule me. Is that okay? Okay. All right, let's start with the decoration committee. Sandra? Helen?
All right.
Paul? Mike?
Better count me out.
Come on, Mike. Everybody else is helping out.
No, leave me out of it. I'm pretty busy these days, doing some very important work at home.
Don't tell us you're still at work on your great American novel. It must be nearly finished by now.
Oh, it's coming along. Well, look, we can't waste any more time. How about you, Hank?
Well, I'm not much good on decorations anyway. There are probably a lot of other things I could do much better.
It's okay, Mike. Forget it. Now, we want to decide whether we want it to be formal or costume.
Formal. Costume.
Oh. Okay, hold it.
Well, I just think that jeans and plaid shirts would be more colorful, that's all.
Wait a minute. Look, we'll take a vote on it. All in favor of formal, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no.
No.
Oh.
Mike is hiding his sense of inadequacy in negativism. He was afraid of failing on the decoration job, so he refused. And now he's taking great pleasure from being coaxed to change his viewpoint. He's getting satisfaction from being the center of attraction.
Okay, let's try to make it unanimous now. All those in favor of a formal, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
That's it.
He always manages to make it tough. He's what Mr. Smith calls, a negative.
Negatist.
I don't understand it. He just likes to have his own way.
At home that night, Mike slips into another phase of his defense mechanism, that of rationalization. For some reason, he claims to be totally uninterested in the dance. He isn't even sure that he wants to go. All those guys rushing around, buttoned up to their chins in blue serge. Let's see. Mike doesn't want a new suit, and he probably implies that the music at such dances is never any good anyway. His sister suggests that probably none of the girls would dance with him. Girls. Just having Harriet around the house is all the girls Mike can stomach. Or so he claims. Girls are stupid and silly. He would be perfectly happy, so he says, if he never saw another girl as long as he lived. His sister has her own ideas on the subject. Sour grapes. Mike is finding out that no real defense against the hard realities of life can be found in negativism and rationalization. Face-saving, self-justification, deception. Why? Disappointment, discouragement, a sense of failure. Why? Insecurity, a lack of confidence, a feeling of inferiority. Why? Why? There are all kinds of reasons for such things, and there could be all kinds of results from them. Mike had many of his own reasons, and he had his own results. In some cases, Mike had taken little experiences, little things, and buried them deep within himself. carefully suppressed and kept from the healing light of day.
He's skinny, isn't he? The trouble is, if it's nerves, they never get over it.
Mike never found out that the conversation was about a dog. The answer was so simple, but he's always kept the question buttoned up inside himself.
Protective mechanisms offer the wrong route. Finding out what the trouble is, what sends us into defense and escape mechanisms, is the first step on the road back to reality. If we can pour out our troubles and unhappiness to a sympathetic friend or a member of the family, then we can avoid keeping such things tied up in ourselves. Well, that's all for today. Got something on your mind? Well, the best place to get things on your mind is off. That may not be good English, but it makes good sense.
I guess I haven't been making good sense.
Yeah, I love films like that. Really, the visualization at the beginning of the people with bags over their heads and all that. Really kind of great. I'm going to change things up a bit and show you a film that doesn't really have anything to do with humans in the film. It's The Monarch and the Milkweed.
Study of nature is the study of relationships, for everything in nature is dependent upon and related to everything else in nature. To study nature, we must divide it into little worlds in which just a few of its relationships can be studied at a time. Now, let's explore just one of the many worlds of nature.
Of all the relationships that exist between plants and animals, none is closer than the one between the monarch butterfly and the milkweed plant. To best understand this partnership, let's take a closer look at the individuals involved. Each is special amongst its own kind. The monarch is particularly interesting because it's one of the very few butterflies in North America that migrates. Each fall, vast congregations of monarchs fly south to escape the killing winter, and each spring, individually this time, they return northward. Mating has taken place just before or during the return trip, and the females will lay their eggs on the way north. These eggs are laid only on the leaves of the milkweed plant. And although each female may lay over 400 eggs during her journey, she lays only one at a time, securing each to the underside of a milkweed leaf. Once laid, the egg will hatch in from 3 to 12 days, depending on the temperature. And immediately the tiny monarch caterpillar, after devouring its egg case, will begin its first meal of milkweed, the only thing it will eat as a caterpillar, and the only solid food it will ever eat during its entire life. For 2 weeks, the monarch caterpillar eats nothing but milkweed leaves, and this it does almost constantly, growing daily until it reaches a length of about 2 inches. Very few insects can eat the leaves of the milkweed plant, for they contain a powerful poison. The monarch caterpillar, however, is immune to this poison, and in eating nothing but milkweed leaves, itself becomes poisonous. Birds, therefore, leave these caterpillars strictly alone. It is not unusual to see monarch larvae in different stages of growth at the same time. The parent of the largest caterpillar may have returned north earlier than the parents of the others. Or it may be that these larvae are not even from the same generation, the smallest being already the grandchild of a returning adult. Two weeks after hatching, having grown at an incredible rate, at this same rate a 1-pound puppy would weigh well over a ton in 2 weeks, the caterpillar is ready to become a chrysalis. It leaves its milkweed leaf, attaches its tail to a twig, and sheds forever its caterpillar skin. For another 2 weeks, it remains in this state while the miraculous metamorphosis takes place that will change it into an adult monarch butterfly. As the case cracks open, the butterfly struggles free. Its body is swollen with the fluid it must pump into its wings before it can fly. Now its diet will consist only of nectar and water, but the poisons from the original diet of milkweed are still in its body. Birds will not eat the adult butterflies either. So, free from the worry of predators, the adult monarch butterfly will now set out to find food, a mate, and, if female, more milkweed plants on which to lay her eggs. The monarchs that will migrate south in the fall will be these new adults and their offspring, the older adults having died during the summer after laying their eggs. No monarch ever makes the trip south more than once. Now that we know the importance of the milkweed plant to the life of the monarch, let's take a closer look at this plant for its own sake. It's interesting not only for being the exclusive host of the monarch larvae, but also for its unique method of reproduction. By the time the monarchs come north to lay their eggs in the spring, the milkweed plants have already sprouted and grown several sets of leaves. Later in the spring and early summer, the plants begin to show the bunches of buds that will soon open into large, showy clusters. Each cluster is made up of small, individual, nectar-filled blossoms. Nectar-loving insects, particularly bees and butterflies, are attracted to these beautiful clusters in great numbers, but find that the blossoms are very slippery and hard to stand on. In fact, the blossoms are so designed that the only possible footholds are the small clefts between the nectar cups, at the heads of which are a tiny black clip. Once an insect's foot is wedged into this clip, he cannot get it out again without exerting a good, strong pull. And in doing so, he takes with him both the clip and the two tiny golden pollen bags attached to it. The clip releases itself from the insect's foot only after the pollen bags are placed in the proper chamber of a milkweed blossom where they can germinate. Some of the insects who help the milkweed plant reproduce in this fashion are not always entirely willing to do so. Smaller insects, such as flies and small moths, are not strong enough to pull out the pollen bags and so become trapped. Later in the summer, those blossoms successfully pollinated develop into the seed-carrying pods. These continue to enlarge until the fall, when, like the rest of the dying plant, they turn brown and dried. Then they split open, and the seeds with their silky parachutes are carried by the wind throughout the area. Many of these will sprout in the spring to start the whole process anew. This is the life history of the milkweed. But there is still another interesting characteristic of the plant, one from which it gets its name. Each plant contains a milky fluid, which can be seen when the stems or leaves are broken or punctured. This fluid is sticky, and the plant uses it as a deterrent to ants and beetles who would steal the precious nectar without helping to pollinate the blossoms. Unlike butterflies and bees, ants and beetles have sharp, pointy feet, which puncture the leaves, causing the sticky fluid to leak out onto their feet. The insects find this uncomfortable, and so avoid the milkweed. Through this study of a unique plant and a unique butterfly, and the relationship to each other, we can readily see a small part of the intricate workings of nature. For although the monarch butterfly is obviously dependent upon the milkweed plant for its survival, a closer look reveals that the monarch is actually just as dependent upon the bees and other butterflies who are responsible for the milkweed's survival. These bees, in turn, are dependent upon still other plants and animals for their survival. And so it goes in the never-ending series of interrelationships which make up this and other worlds of the many worlds of nature.
I guess I was going to show that with the butterfly who's stamped yesterday. It seemed like it was a good pairing, but for some reason I didn't get to it. Anyways, monarch butterflies are always fascinating and have quite a few films about it. And there were some comments about how man has taken out the milkweed, has taken out a lot of the habitats for the monarch butterfly. And I have friends, actually my next door neighbor has planted a milkweed garden for the monarchs, and she was pleasantly surprised to see a bunch of them this season. So hopefully they'll come back. Yeah. All right, what do we got? What time is it? Let's learn about the benefits of looking ahead, since we are on the verge of a new year.
Who are the people who are most likely to succeed? What's the secret of their success? Let's see if Nick Baxter can help us with the answer.
Say, Nick, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Aren't you going to finish your table?
Not right now.
You mean to say you're going to stay after school to loaf again?
Uh-huh.
Well, what are you doing? Oh, reading that article I wrote for the... Pretty good, huh?
Why don't I ever get chosen for something like this? Most likely to succeed. Huh. What have these kids got that I haven't got anyway?
So that's it. Did you read the rest of the article? You know, I interviewed these kids and, well, it was really interesting what they had to tell me.
How do I get high grades? I work for them. I'm not going to school just to put in time. I want to be somebody.
How do I find time for so many activities? I plan for them. I like to make the most of my spare time.
Why do I have so many friends? Well, I like people. I want them to like me. I want to learn how to get along with them better. That'll always be important to me.
Now, does that help answer your question?
I still don't exactly see why they were picked.
Well, it seems to me they're all saying pretty much the same thing. To succeed in something, you have to have a purpose and make plans for reaching it and work at it all the time.
Sounds crazy to me.
Well, what are you doing after graduation?
I'll think about that later.
Are you planning what you'll be doing next semester?
Good night, no. Why should I?
Well, what about next month or next week?
I don't know. What's the idea?
Well, what are you doing this afternoon?
Nothing. There's nothing to do. If I go home, there'll be homework, or work to do around the house, or something. I'm tired of it.
Brother, you do need a purpose and a plan. You should be working on your future right now. Well, have you ever figured out what you'll be like in a few years? Why don't you look ahead?
Don't preach at me. Purpose. Plans. Looking ahead. As if you could tell what you'll be like in a few years. Or can you? What about Ed? He'll probably wind up as a scientist. That's what he's aiming for. And he studies hard. Maybe you can figure that Jean will be pretty active in clubs and things, because she's pretty active now. And, well, Terry would sure do all right in politics with that knack he has of making friends. Well, I suppose you can figure out where some people are headed for. But, say, Don.
Yeah?
Suppose you could look ahead like you said. Do you suppose you could figure what I'm going to be like in a few years?
That's not hard. Judging by the way you're going, I'd vote you least likely to succeed. A guy without any purpose or any plan. You're liable to end up just being a drifter. Maybe even a bum. A bum?
That could be me. Nothing but a bum. What am I saying? That won't happen to me. There's nothing to all that about purposes and plans and looking ahead. That's book stuff. Just trying to put the old scare in me. Forget about it. Now, what's the matter? Can't I even build a simple table? I have to figure out how I want it to look and make a plan for building it. Let's see. There. That's the way I want it to look. Now I have to figure out just how to make it. Length, width, height. That's better. Now I've done something the way it ought to be done. It started to shape up as soon as I made these sketches. When I saw how I wanted it to look and made plans for building it. Plans. Sketches. Measurements. Wait a minute. That's what Don was talking about. That's what I have to do with my own future. I've got to look ahead and imagine, not what it will be like if I just keep drifting. Hello? Oh, hello, thanks. How are you and Mother? Great. Say, Dad, you'll want to know. I've been elected chairman of the community club. That's right. Will you and Mother be my guests at the club dinner? Good. Mary and I will expect you. Yes, I want a future that's something like that. I want to be happy, be somebody, have a good job, friends, a home, a wife and kids. But how do I get there? If that's my purpose, how do I reach it? How? Detailed plans of how to achieve my purpose. And I'd better be getting at it right now. I can write them down, add to them as I go along, change them even. But the important thing is having plans, plans to work with.
Yes, Nick is learning the importance of looking ahead. He's making some decisions about the kind of future he wants and some plans to reach it. Nick wants a happy home life in the future. So he is finding out how his own family works right now and why it gets along so well. Nick wants a successful vocational life. So he's getting some idea of the kind of work he wants to do. And he's studying harder to bring his grades up. And Nick wants a rich social life in the future. So he is learning how to get along with people better. Because now is the time to start working on the plans you have made to achieve happiness. Having a purpose or goal to plan for has given new meaning to everything that Nick does.
Hi, Nick. What you doing? Oh, hi, Don. Hey, thanks. It's fun to do things that come out right. How about playing some ball this afternoon? Boy, I'd like to, but I have a date with a guidance counselor. Want to talk over some different kinds of work in engineering. Then there's the math club meeting. After that, Bill and Ed and I are having a bull session on chemistry. Then I have a date... Okay. Boy, you sure have been going places lately. It's easy, my boy. You've just got to do a little looking ahead.
Looking ahead. So looking ahead, I will be doing screenings tomorrow and on New Year's Day. So there's my looking ahead. New Year's, I don't know, it's not really a holiday. It's actually very anticlimactic for me. My wife, we might watch a movie or something. I don't know. I remember on the New Year's from 1999 to 2000, I actually did my laundry at a laundromat, and the local paper covered it because I was so I felt like that New Year's party was going to be so anticlimactic and annoying that I was like, well, I'm just going to go do laundry. And what I didn't realize, because I was talking to other people that were doing their laundry also because they had to, that was the only time they had time off, was washing your linens was actually bad luck. But I was doing it anyways, and I felt like I encountered some bad luck because of that. Maybe a decade's worth of bad luck. But so anyways, that's my story about New Year's. But you're not here to hear me talk about my stories. Thanks again for tuning in today. You're welcome to reward us by buying us coffee. Caffeine is our drug of choice. You can also hit like. That's preferred if you could hit like wherever you can, and subscribe and share this with other people. We've got lots more films to watch. I've been putting some of them on YouTube and eventually on the Internet Archive, but we're just going to keep going. We have hundreds of films to put online, maybe even thousands. So we're just going to keep going. And then we've also been watching new stuff. So that Monarch and Milkweed film I've never seen before. So that was exciting. Anyways, everybody have a good rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow. Everybody take care. As always, we look to the film can to kind of show us what's going on, and it asks us to please rewind and to love each other. Film cans are the fortune cookies for 16mm film collectors, and this one was a doozy. So everybody have a good rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.